Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Powerful on Purpose podcast. And it is a chilly Monday in Wyoming. We were just talking about that with our guest, Corry Lang. And I'm super excited. I always love having conversations with Corry. She brings us great information about health. And today we're going to talk a little bit about food. But Corry is a certified regenerative detoxification specialist. She'll explain a little bit about what that is. And she's also an iridologist, which, if you haven't listened to our previous episode, we do talk about iridology and how that's so fascinating, what you can tell about a person's health just by looking at their iris. So, welcome, Corry. So happy to have you back again.
Thank you, Leslie, for having me again. I'm always happy to talk to you. And we already had a little chat before, and it's just funny how we talk, and I love it. So thank you for having me back.
Oh, it's always a joy, right? Because Corry can read my mind when I'm like, psh, psh. She's like, I pretty much got that. I'm like, that's why I love you, right? Um, so yeah, tell us a little bit about what that title means and why it's important, and then yeah, what we're gonna talk about today.
Okay, so regenerative detoxification is based on naturopathy, naturopathic medicine. And what we do is we work with people with mainly chronic health issues or autoimmune or mystery illnesses. And we help them to get to the bottom of what's actually making them sick and then to detoxify from the things that make them sick so that their organs and tissues and cells are able to regenerate and heal. And this is the method that I used for myself when I had fibromyalgia and lupus. And out of this method, I completely healed myself. I haven't had symptoms in 7 years.
Yeah, well, that alone is amazing, right? And I think um I remember that from our previous conversation is really you're like the health investigator, right?
Mhm.
So often our current medical model is to address it just from the outward symptoms, right? What we see, what we can fix, instead of going, wait a minute, why is this happening in the body?
Correct. I think we can only really truly heal if we address the root causes. And our current conventional medical system doesn't address the root causes. It's all about, medications and symptoms. But to take something just to mask the symptoms, it just doesn't work in the long run. Everything pharmaceutical that we take will also have a toll on our body and will affect our liver and our lymphatic system. So it's better to, or best to go to the root causes right away and eliminate those. And typically for all kinds of chronic illnesses, autoimmune or mystery illnesses, there's always pathogens and or toxins and the pathogens cofactors. It's always a mix of those things that, work in tandem to get to make the body sick. And then if we eliminate those root causes, we can definitely heal, and we can heal everything, but we have to really look at the root causes. And my background is actually science. So I really like to bridge the gap between science and natural healing methods. I think that's a very powerful way to address disease.
Absolutely. And that actually ties into the story you were sharing a little bit before we jumped on the podcast that you might want to share here. The simplicity sometimes of things that are toxic or that we have reactions to, right?
Yeah, so I went to the dentist today. I'm in Germany and visiting my mom. I'm from Germany. And I went to the dentist because I had gum inflammation and I was really worried. It was periodontitis, which is a nasty, inflammation of the gums. It takes a long time to heal that. It can actually dislodge your teeth because it attacks your teeth as well. And luckily, it wasn't anything like that. It was really just an inflammation of the gums due to an allergy towards my very expensive toothpaste. So there's something in this toothpaste that apparently makes me allergic. And the dentist told me that it's common. A lot of people have allergies towards this toothpaste. So what blew me away about this visit is that the very nice and knowledgeable dentist lady, she spent a lot of time with me. She checked everything. She was very thorough. She calmed my nervous system because I was so worried. And she was just very good. And in the end, the bill, after 20 minutes of her time, her consult, her exam, and the anti-inflammatory, whatever she put on my teeth, cost $27. And so we were just talking how ridiculously low that amount is for the time she spent with me and everything she did. And in the US, our conventional medical system is just not like that. I would have had to spend much more money, much more time. Leslie, you said that I would have probably had 2 appointments, not just one.
Right.
Uh, right? They would have milked that, right? Most
Yeah.
probably. Even if they hadn't milked it, but I mean, they would not have, I mean, been happy with $27. Would have been more than 50 something.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, that does kind of tie into this idea of food and things that we're ingesting, right? That we're not really looking, and I don't think we're really trained to look at what those could be doing to our body and probably simple things.
Yeah. So my mission with my business is to basically educate people to live a more natural lifestyle. And every time I'm confused about food or anything in my life, I look at nature and I look at the animals, basically. What do they do? For example, gorillas, they are our closest relatives, genetically speaking. How do gorillas live? What do they eat? And if we live like gorillas and eat the foods they eat, or they would normally eat in the jungle, then we shouldn't have any of those civilization illnesses that we carry around with us. And I mean, gorillas mostly eat fruits and leaves and sweet grasses, nuts and seeds, bugs, or a small bird occasionally, or bird's eggs. They eat everything they can find in the forest. And if we did that, if we lived this kind of lifestyle, we would be so much healthier. Our immune system would be so much stronger, and we would be able to fend off pathogens and their cofactors. And we wouldn't have all these toxins that we have to deal with as humans, right?
Right, right. And how does that factor into too, th- like we're all buying food from the grocery store, right? So then we're subject to whatever they're doing to that food as well.
Yeah. That's part of the problem, of course, is how the food is treated or handled before it gets into the grocery store. When it is harvested, and then sometimes it's harvested too early, it's not ripe yet, it ripens on the way, or they ripen it artificially. But I mean, that's probably a smaller problem. Of course, the pesticides, most of the food gets sprayed with pesticides. You can't really wash off the pesticides. They sometimes go inside into the leaves. Yes, it's always good to eat organic, or better yet, to grow your own food, right?
Right.
To not use any pesticides at all. And then I used to actually grow my own food, and I would have to share it with the animal world. with
Right. Right. Yeah. Have to fight off the deer.
Yeah, I used to have raccoons and rats, sadly, and the rats made a game out of this. They were jerks, honestly. I mean, I love rats. I used to have pet rats. I used to rescue rats from the science place that I worked at. And I raised them, and they were the best housemates. Honestly, they're like dogs. Rats are so sweet and so smart. But the wild rats, they made a game out of chopping off my kale leaves and laying them in a pattern and not eating them and not taking them anywhere, just chopping them off and laying them in patterns. And I was like, why would they do that? Just to annoy me. I should have an insult.
That's a new one. That's a new one.
Yeah, rats can. There's an experiment going on where rats learn to drive a little car. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's crazy. So they have a little Jeep-like car. The rat sits on a little seat with a steering wheel and has a pedal to go backwards and forwards. And so it drives towards the wall where the treat is attached. And then sometimes it doesn't hit it right, so it has to go back and steer a little bit and go towards it again until it can reach the treat. And the rats have learned to go backwards and use the other paddle to go forwards and to steer the steering wheel.
Right? And we're concerned about AI, right? Probably rats are going to be the ones that'll take over the world.
No,
So where is a place that people could start if they thought, I want to clean up my eating, or I want to eat better, or what is in, I don't know if,
yeah,
and I don't know if that's an easy question, but yeah, where is a good place to start with that?
I think the easiest way to start is really to look at nature. That's why I said that. So gorillas are really good role models in the sense they get so much protein with their nutrition. They get all the healthy building blocks, the minerals, the vitamins, the enzymes. They get everything from plants. And about 3% of their diet is meat when they eat, or animal protein when they eat birds or birds' eggs or bugs or grasshoppers. That's about 3% of their diet. And so I really think that's, I mean, we don't have to go and eat grasshoppers and leaves, but we can supplement, of course. I mean, right? We can eat spinach or kale as leaves, 4 leaves, and our 3% animal protein can be eggs or fish or lean chicken or anything like that. And I think that's a really healthy diet. And all my clients, I try to teach them this kind of diet. So gorillas don't eat sugar, right? I mean, except the fruit sugar, which is what they need. And what, I mean, we need fruit sugar. I'm trying to contain my thoughts right now because I want to go into 4 different directions here. That's why we are so alike. We do the same thing, right?
Yeah, we need a container.
So I think that's the healthiest way to eat. And I mean, if for basic questions like this, just look at nature. Look at what our closest relatives are doing in the wild and how healthy they are and how strong they are. They don't have any lack of protein. They get so much protein with their, their leaves. There's plant protein in that. And yeah, that's what I would do, is always look at nature.
Nice. I think that's a simpler way, right? Again, trying to simplify. How can we, because there's a lot of information out there, a lot of different diets.
Yeah.
I
There's
think
a lot.
ultimately we all want to be healthier, but it's kind of like, where do you even start?
This is, I came up with this gorilla method because it is so confusing on the internet, out in the world, and then commercials. There are a lot of industries behind those commercials. They have a big marketing budget and advertising budget, and they can blast us with information all day long. But most of this information is not factually correct or biologically correct. These companies want to sell their products, and they don't really care. I mean, it sounds harsh, but they don't really care if it hurts us or not. They are, for example, cornflakes or cereals. There's really nothing nutritional in cereal. It's just cardboard and sugar, or it tastes like cardboard and sugar. And the American Heart Association is, what's the word in English? I'm sorry, I'm spending too much time in Germany already. It's uh, not encouraging. Oh God, I'm forgetting the word.
Promoting?
Promoting, yeah, that's a good word. So it's promoting this kind of food, saying it's healthy for our heart, but it really isn't that healthy for our heart. And there's too much sugar in these products. So there are financial interests going on, right? And revolving doors. And the same people that work for this company as whatever CEO or director, they sometimes also then work for the American Heart Association.
Hmm.
There's a book about this. I forgot the title, but it's about maybe it's called The Revolving Door. Actually, it's very simple. It talks about how these CEOs and directors, how they change jobs and they stay within the same circle of friends, and
Right.
they give each other jobs too. The FDA is involved in that as well, and these people, they get paid basically for saying those things, and they're not necessarily true. There's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yeah.
That's why, again, I always look at nature, because that's the only thing that doesn't confuse me, is nature. It's like these gorillas have made it until now, right? And they're still healthy and strong. So what do we need to do to be like that? I can't trust any commercial or any advertisement, because I know there's a financial interest behind that.
Right. Right.
Also, the
Exactly.
same with the fats and those diets. In the keto diet, for example, the keto diet is such a horrible diet because it really attacks the kidneys. And in the long term, all these keto people have had organ issues or kidney issues, the long term keto diet people. But the keto diet is sponsored. That was the word I was looking for. The keto diet is sponsored by the meat industry.
Sure.
Sure, right? Makes so
Right.
much sense.
Yeah. I know when you say it, we're all like, yeah, of course it is. Cause yeah. Um,
Yeah. There's multinational corporations. They are, I mean, they have shareholders, and the shareholders want to be happy. And so how do they get happy? If they sell the products, it's all about money. There's a lot of misinformation out there.
yeah. Yeah. It totally
Yeah,
makes sense. And um, I think the hard thing for all of us to wrap our heads around too is this idea of, like, I know money's king, right? But still putting people's lives in jeopardy for money.
oh yeah, but it's always been like that.
Right.
Like this example about the pork industry and bacon. Until I think the 1920s-ish, around that time, bacon was not a thing in the United States. Like what people would eat for breakfast was porridge and fruit and yeah, something like that. And only in the 1920s, when the pork farmers had too much pork left, they hired this marketing guy. Did you know that story?
No, I do not. Yeah.
They hired a marketing guy who's also a psychologist, and I think he was the nephew of Sigmund Freud, the super famous psychologist, right? And this guy made Americans believe that bacon is healthy and good. And ever since then, bacon has been a staple for American breakfast. It's still not a staple in Europe. And European breakfast is still mostly bread, but it's, I mean, little breads that are like, that have multi grains and that are, this flour over here is completely different than American flour, by the way. I can't eat any bread in the US, but in Germany, I can gorge myself on bread. I have no issues at all. That's another topic.
Interesting. Yeah.
Flour over here is still the old original flour, but in the US, it has been stripped of nutrients, it has been enriched, and it has been bleached. And so it hardly has any more nutrients, but it is stripped, it's just empty. And it actually has a very long shelf life. And the flour in Germany doesn't, because of course there's things that might go rancid or bad. Yeah, it's all about profit. And the people who have to eat this stuff, they get sick. And then there's the other industry, there's the medical industry who, yay, another sick person we can give our medications to. I'm
Right.
simply, I'm speaking very simply right now, but this is basically how it goes, right?
Right. And yeah, and now we're back to your revolving door, right? It's just one of those where people just step in and just keep going round and round and round and can
Yeah.
never get off it.
Also, there's this thing about the sugar. So sugar is toxic for us, right? I mean, regular processed white sugar is toxic for us. There have been experiments on that where very cruel animal experiments actually in the 1950s. There were two dogs, and one dog was just starved. He was given water. That was the only thing he was given, just water, and he starved. And then there was the other dog who was also starved, but he was given water with sugar in it. And that dog died sooner and
Wow.
with more pain and agony than the other dog who just starved. And it's a horrible experiment, but I mean, and sugar is toxic for us, for all mammals. So in the 1960s or 70s, I'm not quite sure, some industry also wanted to add sugar to their food products. Sugar is also 6 times more addictive than cocaine. And nowadays we have sugar in everything, right? In all our processed food items, there's sugar in it. And I can taste it. Whenever I spend time in Europe and I come back to the US, I can taste the difference. There's sugar in everything. So sugar is addictive. And they did that on purpose so that we would buy more of their processed, crappy food items.
Sure.
And at that time, the FDA allowed it. They knew that sugar was toxic for us, but they allowed it. And the industry bought, I don't know how many, but they bought doctors in the sense that doctors would tell us what we needed to hear, like sugar is healthy for us,
Right.
and the doctors would get paid for that. And the FDA knew about it, and they still checked off on it or signed off on it. And ever since then, we had sugar in our processed foods, and only in America.
Right. Right. And then talk about that also creates that as you mentioned, that addiction, and how do I get off of that, right?
Yeah. So if we eat all this sugar, our bodies are not designed to eat this much sugar. So naturally, we attract parasites. Usually it's yeast, bacteria. And there's pretty much in every, not in every, but in 75% of Americans, there's an overgrowth of yeast bacteria. And from a lot of people, we don't even notice it. They're just there. They've always been there since we were little, since we had all this sugar since we were little. But these bacteria, they're there to clean up because we can't digest all the sugar. We can't handle it. Sorry, let me turn off my phone. So the bacteria or the yeast, they clean up. after, and they munch on the sugar. So if we don't eat sugar for some time, then these yeast bacteria or yeast, well, it's actually, yeast is a mixture between a fungus and a bacteria. So those yeasties, they will get angry and they want sugar. So we have a craving. All of a sudden, we'll have a sugar craving, and then we'll eat more sugar, and then those yeasties are happy. And the way around this is we need to get rid of the yeast first. So for example, I work with herbal protocols and herbal remedies. We have an herbal product that contains plants that kill off the yeast. And I used to have this problem. I used to be addicted to sugar too, ever since I moved to the US. And I took one dose of this and my cravings went away. It's really magical. So these are bottles and you take them for 2 weeks, but I noticed after one dose already, I didn't have any more cravings. And it's really important that we get rid of, those yeasts, for example, and the cravings, because in the long run, there will be other things that happen. We can't have this parasite in our organism with no effects.
Right.
In the long term, there will be other problems. So the monkeys or the apes or the gorillas, they eat a lot of fruit, which contains fruit sugar and fructose, galactose, and glucose. And those are actually healthy for us. And we need this kind of sugar for our organs, for our nervous system, for our heart, for our brain, and also for our stress as a buffer for stress buffer. And this is the only kind of sugar that makes it through the blood-brain barrier into our brain. Our brain needs sugar too, but fruit sugar. So when children, when they crave sugar, they usually crave fruits and not the processed, the white sugar. But they need this kind of sugar for their nervous system to develop fully and for their brains and as a stress buffer. And so if you have kids and you see them craving sugar, give them oranges or bananas or any kind of fruit sugar, and that should be okay. And that does not feed the yeast. That actually destroys the yeast.
Right. Well, and I'm thinking in my head too, if people were able to destroy the yeast and get rid of those cravings, they're naturally going to lose weight, right? Because that's part of what is happening in um yeah, definitely in the US and I'm sure other parts of the world, but is the weight challenge is a lot of because there's so much sugar everywhere. And like you say, our bodies can't process it, one, and then two, we're just getting it from everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big problem in the US, especially is the obesity rate, right? Obesity rates are not going down at all. They keep going up even with all the fads we have and all the diet nutrition, right? The diet products, but still obesity, the rate is going up still. So yeah, I mean, cleaning up or cleaning ourselves out from the yeast and the sugar is definitely the first step. And then a lot of these people are actually malnourished. They eat so much food to fill cravings, but they're not getting the right nutrients.
Right.
So they need to start eating healthier. And I would say in that case, just eat tons of fruits and vegetables. Just eat more fruits and vegetables and try to let go step by step in baby steps, the sugary, horrible processed items. If a product has more than 4 ingredients, then don't eat it. That's, rule of thumb. It's like if you pick up a package at the store and it has more than 4 ingredients, then don't eat it. An apple only has 1 ingredient. It's an apple.
Nothing added that we're aware of.
So, I mean, it takes some, I don't want to use the word willpower. I don't have any willpower. I do everything through habits. So I don't want to force myself to do anything in this lifetime. For me, everything is through habits. But if you start just letting go of some unhealthy food items and adding healthy food items, and just little by little, just eat 1 apple a day or 1 piece of fruit a day if you never eat fruit. And then maybe you eat 2 pieces of fruit the next day. And also the key is to stuff yourself first with the healthy items. And then you're not so hungry anymore for the unhealthy items. So eat all the healthy food first and then see how much hunger is left and then eat something crappy. But first eat all the healthy things and then see how hungry you really are after that. The body changes remarkably fast. The body actually craves fruits and vegetables. And your body will adapt super quickly and your taste buds will change. All of a sudden, fruit will taste better and the crappy foods will not taste so good anymore. So give your body a chance to figure that out because the body always wants to heal. It always wants to regenerate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's probably like we've probably overloaded people's brains already, right? With all these tips, but I do love um the simplicity of what you're talking about because really anybody can take those simple steps. And like you said, even if you eat just one apple a day for a week, you're creating that new habit. And then add in another thing. And sure, it takes a little bit of time, but I think in the long run, when you say the results are going to be much better going that route than a fad diet or like scrapping your total diet and going completely vegan or whatever it is in one day.
Yeah, don't do anything radical in one day. It doesn't work. I mean, it's just too hard. Just do it in baby steps. And I mean, I always say that to my clients too. I have clients who eat really unhealthy diets. And I'm so proud of them that they even consider working with me. It must be so scary for them. I mean, it is scary. If you think about a detoxification program, they know it's 3 months. And some of them really have fears that they can't eat anything they like, or they will be so uncomfortable or so hungry. And I really honor these people and admire these people that they even think about working with me about that. So we do everything in baby steps. And I've had clients who eat meat 3 times or used to eat meat 3 times a day. And they were scared. And then I told them the same thing. I said, this is really about habits. It's really baby steps. So maybe try not to eat 3 times, not to eat meat 3 times a day. Just do it twice a day. And then they did that for a week. And then after the week, we were like, okay, maybe just once a day. And they did this no problem. And by that time, they were already getting a little fed up of all the meat they were eating. And they
Mhm.
started to change already. And their body was already seeing that opportunity to get healthier. And this particular person I'm thinking about right now, he had crazy bowel movements then because he was also taking herbs at the same time, healing herbs. And he had like the things he were pooping out was like black, tarry, rubber looking things. That was old meat that hadn't been digested
Right.
because it takes 2 weeks to digest meat. We're not cats or carnivores, right? So in his case, he was so backed up. And then all this stuff started coming out, and he was really grossed out and horrified. And then he was like, let's speed this up a little bit. What do I have to do to speed this up? And then we were like, okay, well, if you want to jump in now, then we'll do it faster. And at the end of the 3 months, he was cleaned out. He looked so much better. He was so much happier, and he stayed vegan for quite a while. So he was very happy with that lifestyle.
Right.
But I know it's hard in the beginning, and we have to take small steps in order to achieve that.
Right. But also what I'm hearing you say is that change can happen quickly.
Yes.
Once this process starts, that you can begin to feel better. um I don't know necessarily what he came to you for, but I'm assuming it was something that he's like, I'm ready for a change. I'm willing to look at these other options.
Yeah, he was really sick when we had been talking for a few months and he wasn't ready. And then eventually he was. He had edema on his legs and his legs were like this big. And he actually he was amazing to work with and he did almost everything I told him to do. And and he was very happy with the results.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, any last words of advice for people who maybe are, we've talked about some of them, keep it simple, creating
Mhm.
those new habits. Uh, but anything else, any other words of wisdom you'd like to give people before we wrap up?
Yeah, definitely keeping it simple. Listen to your body. Your body will actually know what to do. So when you start eating a little bit healthier, your body will tell you what it wants. So listen to that. There's a friend of mine, he has a toddler, and they have an orange tree, and the toddler goes to the orange tree and just grabs himself some oranges. And the doctor said, no, no, don't let him eat so much fruit. It's too much sugar. So it's the same conversation. This is actually the healthy kind of sugar. The toddler knew what he wanted, and he wanted to eat an orange. And he ate like sometimes 4 oranges a day. But that's what his body wanted. And he's fine and he's healthy and he's not over sugared or anything. Look at other toddlers, other kids that eat, industrial sugar, processed sugar, and they're not healthy at all. So we need to learn to listen to our body again. And I know I did that in my healing journey when I started to get healthier again when I was so sick. And I was listening to my body. My body was craving fruit like crazy. When I was really sick and detoxifying myself, I was eating 80% fruit and 20% veggies for 6 months. And I just knew my body wanted fruit. So I went shopping and got all this fruit stuff and I ate it all and I was gobbling that up and it made me feel good. So trust your body. Your body actually knows what to do.
Right? Yeah. Well, that was a great mic drop there to tap into our intuition, right? Give it a little help and then really lean into that. So thank you so much. Always like insightful. I always learn a ton and get a few laughs out of it as well. So it's a bonus.
Thank you so much for having me again. I love talking to you too. So we should do it again.
Absolutely. We'll bring you yet another episode. So be sure and subscribe so you don't miss any updates from Corry, as well as the other amazing women that join us here on Powerful on Purpose podcast, where we share their stories and their mission to change the world.